Armchair Explorer is a part of the Voyescape podcast network. Check out all of their shows from around the world at voyescape.com. This episode is sponsored by Smart Travel, a new podcast from NerdWallet. You know, we've all got that one friend, haven't we? That one who finds all the best travel deals, picks the right cards, and somehow ends up in first class for the price of coach. Well, now you can be that friend because Smart Travel is like him or her, but in podcast form. They cover all things travel finance, like how to get real value from points, not just a tiny little reward at the end of checkout, or which flight deals are actually deals and not just clickbait, or when that convenient travel bundle might actually be a hidden tax in disguise, all that stuff. So travel smarter and spend less with help from NerdWallet. Follow Smart Travel wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome to Armchair Explorer on location. Travel and adventure stories recorded in the field in the most immersive way possible, designed to give you a glimpse of what it feels like to be there for real. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey guys, really looking forward to sharing this episode with you today. It's a documentary we made about the blues in Tennessee. We recorded it on location in Tennessee with my producer, Jason Patton, and I. We had an amazing time. He's a musician. I'm a drummer. So as the joke goes, unfairly in my opinion, I just hang around with musicians. But we spent 10 days driving all the way from Memphis to Bristol, all across the state, experiencing all different types of music. Tennessee is the soundtrack of America. Rock and roll, soul, and country music were all born here. And the blues is at the heart of all those genres and all modern music today, in fact. It is the foundation. It is the basement, as Rick Rushing, a blues musician that you're about to meet, calls it. And Tennessee is also one of the places where blues first began. So this episode is all about telling the story of blues music in Tennessee. It's going to highlight amazing things that you can do here to experience the blues and learn about blues history. But even more importantly than that, this episode tells the story of America. The blues was born from the darkest parts of our history. It originated from enslaved people in the fields and their pain and their anguish and that expression of that pain. But it went on to inspire some of the most beautiful music the world has ever heard. And I think that's fascinating and amazing and beautiful. Because what the blues does is it represents in words and music our shared human experience, that despair, but also the hope, that darkness, but also the light. And it does it all in 12 bars, all at the same time. So get ready for the story of the blues in Tennessee. This is a good one. I think you're going to like it. And if you do like what you hear, you can scroll back on the feed. We have a few other episodes from our Tennessee Music Pathways series we made, from Memphis and the birth of rock and roll to Nashville and the country music sound, and the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, which includes going to the scariest distillery in the world and having a, let's just say, experience that I can't quite explain there. Also, don't forget to subscribe and follow the show. We've got some incredible episodes coming up, from adventures in Joshua Tree National Park to discovering a part of the ancient Middle East that almost no one has visited before. That is a particularly incredible series I'm really excited to share with you. But don't worry about that right now, because the band is going on stage and the adventure is about to begin. Welcome to the Tennessee Music Pathways podcast. We're going to take you on a journey from the Great Smoky Mountains and the roots of country to the banks of the Mississippi and the birth of rock and roll. This is the soundtrack of America, made in Tennessee. Welcome to the Tennessee Music Pathways. This week, we are in Chattanooga, home of the Big Nine, one of the original breeding grounds of the blues. The blues is perhaps the most influential genre in the history of music. From the field hollers of slaves who gave birth to its signature structure and style, to rock and roll, hip-hop, and everything in between, the blues is one of America's seminal art forms, and it was here, in Chattanooga, where it found its voice. But the scene today is rich with music of all kinds. We're going to be singing with a gospel choir, watching jazz on the streets, making a pilgrimage to the backwoods of Jackson, and listening to some of the finest musicians in the state. Get ready for the story of the blues in Tennessee.
And so, the simplicity of just having an open note.
This is Rick Rushing, one of Chattanooga's best blues musicians.
But if you want to add the rhythm, then you just put the first finger on the second string, second fret.
He's demonstrating the basic structure of the blues. Its simplicity, 12 bars, a few notes, hypnotic rhythm, and its power comes from that simplicity. Because on top of that sparse foundation, the singer has room to express themselves freely. The blues tell stories that affect us all, stories that speak to the human condition, and because of that, they are timeless and universal and will always be true.
My baby, she says, can't come by today. She's afraid that I might bring pandemic away. So baby, don't be mean. I ain't got COVID-19. At least not yet.
That's the blues we can all relate to.
That's what it was, man. That's what it was, man.
We're going to hear more from Rick and more about Chattanooga, one of the original breeding grounds of the blues, later. And though it might be kind of strange to hear a blues song about COVID-19, at its heart, that's what the blues has always been about. Our experience. Good, bad, ugly, and sometimes a little funny too. And although this is music we can all relate to, its roots and its evolution can be traced back to a very specific time, people, and place. The blues was born from the darkest parts of our history and ourselves, but it would go on to inspire some of the most beautiful music the world has ever heard. And that dichotomy is what makes it so special. But to understand that a little better, we're going to have to go back to where it all began. We've just turned off the main road and we're on a little forest lane driving through the countryside. There's barely a town that we've passed. It's just trees and fields on all sides, and we're getting deeper and deeper into rural Tennessee because we are on a pilgrimage that's been taken by musicians for decades, including one of my heroes, Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin, who came here to pay homage to the grandfather of the blues harmonica, Sonny Boy Williamson, who, when he picked up that harmonica for the first time and wailed into it, he changed the way the blues was played forever.
Just another couple minutes of that.
So the directions we've been given is to find Blair's Chapel. And which road is it? Like, these are barely roads. Just passing cotton field after cotton field. I don't even know if this is a road. I think this is definitely a dead end. Turn around. John Lee Curtis, Sonny Boy Williamson, who's not to be mistaken with Sonny Boy Williamson II, another blues artist who actually stole his name, is buried in a small rural cemetery here on the outskirts of Jackson, Tennessee. There's some music history here. Jackson is the home of the first Hard Rock Cafe, the great Carl Perkins, and Sonny Boy himself, who was born here in 1914. These were mean, hard years for young black men growing up in the Deep South, whose only hope for employment was working in the cotton fields for 30 cents a day. All right, I think we are getting close I can see there's thick kudzu vines all dried out from winter everywhere, and then just tucked away a little bit up there. Let's keep going. You know what? There it is. It's kind of in that clearing of trees you can just about see through up that hill. I'm pretty sure that's where it must be. All right, let's pull over. Let's see what we can find. It really is hidden. There's a small Tennessee music pathway marker, so you know you're in the right spot, but the cemetery itself is nothing more than a collection of haphazard headstones surrounded by thick trees and overgrown brush. It's a fitting final resting place for one of the pioneers of the blues. Because it was in places like this, poor rural communities in the Deep South, from cotton fields and the anguish of slavery, where this music comes from. And you can feel a faint echo of that still. This is a really important part of the Tennessee music story. And I'm just kind of stomping my feet because I heard there's snakes around here. But it's worth the risk because this is the grave of someone very special. Before Sonny Boy, the harmonica was a backing instrument, but he transformed it into the centerpiece of the blues. And when you listen to him play, you can hear the anguish and the pain and the cruelty that the blues spoke of in every single wailing note. That's the power of the blues. It's unfiltered. And Sonny Boy, who was given his first harmonica by his mother at age 11, was a master. According to his half-brother T.W. Utley, when Sonny Boy wasn't chopping cotton, milking cows, or doing other chores around the farm, he was blowing on that harp. By 16, he was jamming around Tennessee with the legendary blues guitarist Sleepy John Estes, whose shotgun cabin is actually just down the road in Brownsville, by the way, and soon he made his way from there to Chicago, where he would make his mark. But his spark didn't last long. He was killed in a bar fight at just 34 years old. But his influence is still being heard to this day in the Rolling Stones, the Muddy Waters, and Led Zeppelin, and everything in between. That's why you come, to pay your respects to the grandfather of the blues harmonica. This whole gravesite is old, it's faded, there's lots of headstones spread out, there's no order to it anywhere, there's trees and vines, but right in the corner there's one gravestone that's more polished than the rest, and I know that's Sonny Boy Williamson's grave, because on the top of it, somebody's left a harmonica. And that is the perfect offering to leave at this gravesite. And I've come here to leave something too. Thanks, Sonny Boy. Now it's time to hear the story of the blues. And we're going to start that story at the National Museum of African American Music, just down the road in a little place called Nashville, Tennessee. Entering the National Museum of African American Music, you begin by walking through the entire history of American music, from its indigenous African roots, where dance and rhythm were an essential part of the culture, through to slavery, where those traditions, their identity, was kept alive in song. Every note, Frederick Douglass, the great African American abolitionist, said, was a tone, a testimony against slavery, and a prayer to God for deliverance from chains. And out of those traditions, two strands emerged. Gospel, the Sunday morning of church, and the blues, the Saturday night music of the club and stage. Gospel was born from the spiritual songs of enslaved people and became that prayer of deliverance. But it was also a celebration.
I'll sing with you.
This is the start of the museum, the Wade in the Water Gallery, which traces the history and influence of African American spiritual music. And the best part is, right at the start, you can join in live with a gospel choir singing one of the most recognizable gospel songs of all time. And this is our producer, Jason, and you're lucky he's doing the singing and not me.
That was all right.
Well, I'm glad you guys were there to help us. It sounded awful without you. The museum's totally interactive. If you love music, and even if you don't, you're going to have a lot of fun. We get to be a music producer and create our own track. Well, I'm hearing this funky, so I want some horns. So that's what I'm going to lay to it. Okay, let's listen to the final mix. Oh, I just hit number 1 on the charts. We go to a club and get all silly. And I even get to beat producer Jason in a hip-hop battle. Who won that one?
Let's see.
You be the judge of that.
I lost that one very,
Hey, this
very
isn't a
much so.
participation award. This is like, if someone wins on this is a battle.
I think you got it.
He's never gonna live that one down. We'll be back here later, but the blues is why I'm here. So we're gonna go upstairs to speak with Katie Range Briggs, the exhibitions and collections manager at the museum, to find out how it all began.
In our museum, we talk about musical traditions rooted in Africa, the vocal pattern, and the use of the string instrument. All of that is found in blues music. Every time you hear the holler in blues, every time you hear the slide of a blues guitar, you are basically communing with an African ancestor.
And that communion is represented in the structure and sound of the music itself. Like gospel, the blues arose organically from traditional African music brought over in slave ships. And those slaves and later sharecroppers and forced laborers sung those traditions while they worked. It's called the field holler. It starts with a single line, a solo cry, echoed in response by the other workers. And its sound is representative of their toil and the repetitive rhythm of their work. You can hear it. And it's that call and refrain style that would become central to the structure of the blues. But within those cries, those songs of toil, there was also a coded message, a message of resistance, hope, and most of all, a message of freedom.
Blues is an explicit articulation of lived experience. Blues will have rhythms, but also explicit to those rhythms is the story. Its sound is so similar to the field holler. Its sound is so similar to the coded message. And that is because it's being birthed from those spaces. The folks who are appreciating blues and the folks who are creating blues music are clearly holding their ancestors' ways of performance, of community, of expression. So this lived experience might be told over and over again in these different songs, but every time it's told, it lifts higher and higher the veil that often is placed around people so that they cannot freely express what they're going through.
The field holler was a way for enslaved people to keep their culture alive. It was an expression of their lived experience and the pain and anguish that came from it. But that anguish didn't end with slavery, and neither did the music. It evolved, it transformed, but it spoke in the same way of the lived experience of African Americans, and in doing so, it became the blues. And those messages of freedom and resistance, coded in song for many long years, began to come out of the shadows and into the light.
We can't talk about the blues music without talking about the Great Migration and the different iterations of that migration pattern. The idea that I'm attempting to move out of the oppressive South. We can't ignore Jim Crow and Jim Crow laws. But I also want to think about, too, how with blues music, people understand that they can now capitalize on their musical talent, and that this gives an opportunity to have the feeling of, I own how I work. There is a terrorization of Black folk that's happening too. And that's debilitating economically. And that blues music and all the economics that go around performing and making blues music is a pathway out of that terror.
Got nobody, oh, no one to feel my pain.
And one of the destinations of that pathway, one of the epicenters where blues first flourished, was on 9th Street in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
You know, when Chattanooga was first formed, it was part of an undesirable area, so to speak.
This is Elijah Cameron, the Director of Community Relations and Development at the Bessie Smith Cultural Center.
After the Civil War, there were a lot of African Americans here in the city that had congregated down on the river. It was low basin, it flooded quite a bit. So as time went on, things started to change. Businesses started to pop up around down in this area, and it became real popular.
And there's one man to thank for that, John Lovell. In 1870, he set up the first Black-owned business on 9th Street, pitching a tent in downtown Chattanooga. It did well, and in the early 1900s, he expanded, building Mahogany Hall, an entire block of a building that housed a hotel and the biggest bar and dance club in the city. It was electric. Musicians would come from all around to make money, to own their work, to play in front of their community.
9th Street was an area where the clubs were open almost 24 hours a day. And most of the clubs had live bands. You could walk into a club and there may be a band playing the blues, and you leave out of there and go to the club next door and there may be somebody in there playing R&B. Or you can go down the street and you got somebody playing jazz. People came from all over the South to party. You would have busloads of people coming in on Friday evening, and sometimes they didn't leave till Sunday.
In its heyday, 9th Street was bigger than Bourbon Street, bigger than Beale Street. And through the 20s and into the 60s, everyone who was anyone wanted to play here. Ella Fitzgerald, Curtis Mayfield, James Brown, Jimi Hendrix. The scene was on fire. And one person is credited more than any other with lighting the match. The Empress of the Blues, Miss Bessie Smith.
Bessie was born here in Chattanooga. She was born in a little place called Blue Goose Hollow, and that was a part of the West Side. Bessie grew up playing, singing down and dancing down here on 9th Street. And she and her brother Clarence actually played. He played the guitar, and she did a little singing, a little dancing.
Life started hard for Bessie. Orphaned at 9, she was raised by her older siblings, and money was always tight. But music poured out of her. She started on the corner for nickels and dimes, but at the age of 18, a traveling vaudeville group led by another blues legend, Ma Rainey, the assassinator of the blues as she was known, took her on, and she got her big break.
Because actually she was a dancer in the beginning when she left here with Ma Rainey, but when they heard that voice, it was something different than they had ever heard coming out of a woman, so to speak. Bessie was a great influence on the genre of music that she provided, and she made a heck of an impression on the music scene with her raspy voice, and that's how she became known as the Empress of the Blues.
Her voice was unique, raspy and sweet. She played with pitch and rhythm in new ways. And she would go on to become the highest paid African-American performer in the country, selling millions of records and influencing countless musicians in the decades that followed. At this time in America, minstrel shows were still a popular form of entertainment. white actors would paint their faces black and caricature African American performers, perpetuating a stereotype that would last for decades. This is the context from which artists like Bessie were emerging. And 9th Street gave them a space to do it in a new way. It was a place where African Americans could freely challenge those stereotypes. Not in code, not anymore. Now, the blues spoke that message, that deep truth of resistance, that call for freedom, openly. And in doing so, they gave hope to all who listened.
Nobody knows you.
The right to take stage, the right to present yourself as how you choose to present yourself rather than the stereotype is why blues music is so exciting. And the performers are saying, this is me. And this is what I look like and sound like versus this is what sells, this is the mockery. The blues performance is a direct challenge in that. You know, Bessie Smith takes that stage, and from costume to voice, she's challenging any notion of what you thought she was going to be.
I mean, when you down in the
9th Street didn't last forever. It was killed off through redlining and urban renewal, and after desegregation in the late 60s and early 70s, it faded. Today it has been renamed Martin Luther King Boulevard, and although there are murals commemorating its history, it will never be the same again. But if you listen hard enough and look closely enough, the spirit of Bessie and the Big Nine is still here, in the soil and sidewalks of Chattanooga.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm Aaron.
Aaron, I'm Olivia.
Hey, nice to meet
Jason.
you.
Jason, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for
Yeah.
playing for us.
This is Via. She's a local jazz singer, another art form that prospered under the Big Nine, and we caught up with her busking on the pedestrian bridge, the world's longest walking bridge, in fact. She's part of a very special program called the Sidewalk Stages, which was founded by local promoter and musician Stratton Tingle.
Sidewalk Stages is a program that we launched in 2016, about a year into our organization. We believe that a thriving music economy is representative of a thriving overall economy in a growing city. And what better way to sort of showcase what's going on in music than really taking it to the streets? And I think ultimately that is something that artists thrive on, and I think that's something that also inspires the community.
Stratton is the founder of Soundcore, a local non-profit dedicated to supporting musicians in the Chattanooga area. And it's indicative of what this town is all about. Chattanooga is cool. It's a young town, a town full of creators and artists. You can feel it walking around. And that's important. 9th Street created a space for musicians to flourish, for the blues to flourish and take flight. And it's that same spirit that people like Stratton are injecting into the city today.
The work that I do every day is really to offer hope. Hope for local musicians who grew up here to see an opportunity and a career that they may not have thought possible before we existed. Hope for those who come here for college or somehow, for whatever reason, find themselves in Chattanooga and envision the possibility of working in music and seeing hope that there's a future in that. But as long as we can give people a vision, help people to just really enroll into their own vision, into their own future, I think we'll see growth, we'll see progress, we'll see our community growing in a healthy way and a vibrant way and a fun way.
Chattanooga may not have the name that Nashville or Memphis has, but the scene here is arguably just as good. It's less busy, less flashy, less intense, but in a good way. It's varied, it's alive, it's real. Stratton calls it a crossroads of all types of musical backgrounds, a mesh of musical genres. But all of those styles, all of those genres come back to one thing, the thing that inspired them all, the blues. Which is why we're heading back to my favorite exhibition at the National Museum of African American Music.
I'm standing at a table right now, and it's so cool because I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix, one of my favorite artists of all time, one of the great rock and roll artists of all time. But next to Jimmy is the people that influenced him. So I'm going to switch over to Robert Johnson now, one of the original blues man. And I can hear in that howling guitar style something of what became Jimi Hendrix and that flaming guitar from Monterey. And in Robert Johnson, I can see what came after him. I can see Eric Clapton. I can listen to that bluesy sound, that sadness in his voice. And next to Robert Johnson, I can see other blues artists like Leadbelly. And who did he influence? Well, he influenced people like Muddy Waters, that soulful sound, that beautiful guitar playing. And who came after him? The Rolling Stones. And in that is the blues. You can hear Muddy, you can hear Sonny Boy. And who came after them? Well, just about everyone.
That's why everything comes from the blues, because it's from the bass. It's in the basement. And then you build on top of it and you get, oh, here's some jazz. Oh, yeah, sharp 13. Oh, so pretty. Major 9, you know. And then we go upstairs, we'll get to, you know, rock and roll. We go upstairs, we'll get to pop, you know, rhythm and blues. So if we're on the foundation, then you get more of that lyrical content of how it feels to be down.
The blues is about downtrodden people, you know. We talk about the slaves. The slaves had a song on their heart, but that song was always a message. The blues was more of an influence for people who was downtrodden, had no hope. Ones the people that looked and felt they were cast-offs. So when they were singing that blues, that was telling the story of how they felt. And to this day, it still tells a story.
Sonny Boy Williamson and the blues players that came from these cotton fields of Tennessee changed the world. Because the blues didn't just inspire music in Tennessee and around the world, it was also the soundtrack to the civil rights movement. It would also be the bedrock that would unite black and white together and change the world. From Sonny Boy's harps to Stax Records soul and the birth of rock and roll itself, this is a story of the blues, and it's the story of America itself.
We're still listening to Robert Johnson. We're still listening to Son House, and we're still listening to all the music that was saying those songs of sorrow. But we're also learning from them. I went down to the crossroads, fell down on my knees, asked the Lord for mercy. Take me if you please. When you're pleading to God, you know, asking for mercy, where else are you? We get every race of people in the world with the guitar and play a blues. It doesn't have any color, so that's why it brings people together. Everyone gets leave all that at the gate and let their ears and their hearts and souls do the rest. And so that's what it's all about. Back from the cotton fields to the day is freedom.
And that is why the most important chapter of the blues is perhaps yet to be written. Because although we have come far, we have not arrived yet. And because of that, the blues songs of today must continue to be sung so that our grandchildren will hear them tomorrow. Not to push a political message or ideology, but to do something more powerful, more simple, and more fundamental. To represent in words and music our shared human experience, despair and hope, darkness and light, all in 12 bars, all at the same time.
Every day I have them Russian blues. Every day I have them Russian blues. I'm getting there real fast, baby, because it's you I hate to lose. I'm gonna pack my flowers.
If this episode inspires you to come to Tennessee and explore these pathways yourself, you can find out more about how to do that, including all the things we mentioned in this episode, by going to tnmusicpathways.com. And make sure to tune in to our next episode where we'll be traveling to Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. So hit that subscribe button and follow us wherever you get your shows. You're not going to want to miss any of this. Much of the music that is featured in this episode was performed by local musicians. If you would like to hear some of the historical recordings we mentioned, please check out our Tennessee Music Pathways Spotify playlist. The link is in the show notes and on the website. Thank you to the musicians who featured in this episode. You can find out more about Rick Rushing and his band The Blues Strangers at ReverbNation.com and Facebook, or connect with Rick directly on Twitter at III Rushing. He's actually Rick Rushing III, so that's why there's the triple I. And on Instagram, he's at Rick Rock III. Rick's an amazing musician and just a cool guy to hang out with, so go and connect with him and check out a gig. He plays all over Chattanooga all the time. And while you're there, you can also check out one of Via's shows too. Connect with her on Instagram. Her handle is I Spilled Something. I love that. You can also listen to more of her music and buy her album on Bandcamp, viassong.bandcamp.com. That's VIASSONG. And thank you to Reed Caldwell from the Songbirds Foundation in Chattanooga, who played the intro, and we'll be hearing more from him when we get to Memphis later in the series. And finally, you can find out more about the Sidewalk stages in Chattanooga and where to check out some shows by going to soundcore.org and searching up the Sidewalk stages schedule. Always lots going on, and it's a great way to soak up the city and catch some live music at the same time. That's about it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. This series was produced by Armchair Productions, the audio experts for the travel industry. Find out more at armchair-productions.com. My name's Aaron Millar. I wrote and presented the show. Jason Patton produced and sound designed it. And we'll see you next time on the Tennessee Music Pathways podcast.
That's RUSHING every day, every day. Got them old Russian blues. Don't you see me worrying, sweet darling, because it's you I don't ever want to lose.
Thanks for listening to this Armchair Explorer on location episode. I had a ton of fun making it. I hope you had a ton of fun coming along with me. Next week, we'll be back with our usual format, and then there'll be lots more on location stuff to come.
I'm Max Hortzorn, host of the Go Nomad Travel Podcast. Every week, I bring you a short 5 to 8 minute escape to somewhere unexpected. I cover the kinds of travel stories you don't hear anywhere else, quirky destinations, unusual adventures, and people who make the world endlessly interesting. If you love discovering new places but don't have time for a long show, these bite-sized episodes are perfect for your commute, your walk, or your coffee break. Join me on the Go Nomad Travel Podcast and explore the world in just a couple of minutes.
If you want to travel more, ideally in luxury, but without the luxury price tag, this show is for you. I'm DeAndre Koch, and on Revolutionizing Your Journey, I use my unique vantage point as a financial advisor to break down exactly how my wife and I leverage credit card points and miles to fly business class, stay at 5-star resorts, and take bucket list trips for a fraction of the cost. Each week, I share real strategies packed with actionable tips and interview some of the smartest travelers in the game to help you revolutionize the way you travel. Travel well, live boldly, and find Revolutionizing Your Journey wherever you get your podcasts.